than doing it for magazines. As you can imagine, the pacing and the timing are totally
Very
different.
slow.
In a magazine, we have about 17 to 20 pages to tell a story. That isn't much compared to a TV show or a movie, but it's an enormous amount compared to a newspaper strip where you've only got 3 panels, sometimes 4, a day. The first panel you need for a summing up of what happened the day before. The second panel carries your story forward. By the third panel, you have your cliffhanger, and you're not really doing anything except exciting the reader, you hope. So you can't advance the story in anywhere near the same way as in a comic strip. And I was afraid Spider-Man, if we chose to go that route, would really die in the papers, and I didn't want that to happen. And then one day, after years, just like Isaac Newton discovering gravity, I woke up in the middle of the night after the apple fell on my head, and I said, I've got it. I know how to do Spider-Man. I figured out, I thought, a way. Called the syndicate and said, okay, we're ready to do Spider-Man. And luckily, it has worked out. In less than a year, Spidey is in almost 400 newspapers, which is phenomenal.
My word.
Yeah, and I won't tell you what the trick is, because you'll run out and do a strip of your own, but it's the only adventure-type strip that has made it in years, because most of the adventure strips are dying. If you look at the newspapers, you can see it's the humor strips that are becoming big.
Mm-hmm.
So we think we're pretty lucky with that.
Have you got any new projects in the making? Anything you can talk about?
Yeah, Conan the Barbarian is going to be a newspaper strip starting in January. Howard the Duck is now in the papers. But we're mostly concerned now with television and movies. We're presently negotiating to buy an animated film studio on the coast so that we can produce our own cartoons. Then eventually we'll produce live-action shows for television and for theatricals. Universal Studios is doing quite a number of our characters as 2-hour made-for-television movies. We're consulting with them, and hopefully these shows will go into a series as they prove successful. They just did the Hulk, which was on the air a few weeks ago, and they have a second Hulk coming up. They're working on Doctor Strange, Captain America, Submariner, and of all things, the Human Torch. Another fellow named Chuck Freeze, Dan Goodman, his partner, did Spider-Man, which was on television a few months ago.
How'd that go?
Well, the funny thing about Spider-Man, I'm delighted it was on the tube, but it wasn't as good as it should have been, although it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Well, I won't ask you if you had anything to do with it.
Well, I was supposedly the consultant, but they really didn't listen to me that much. Presently, we're working on I'm trying to get a little more authority over the shows, because the one thing I don't want to happen, I don't want the shows to be pedestrian. These characters are too important to us. And I think the future ones, well, the beginning ones weren't bad. I think the future ones will be much better.
Well, I hope they will be. Thank you a lot. I really enjoyed it.
It
I
was a
hope you
pleasure.
have too.
Thank you.
And tune in again next week for Weekender.
And read Marvel.